Alright pupils, in this tips and tricks video, we're going to start with fundamental things about Serqet and then move on to more advanced techniques that are sure to improve your Serqet gameplay. Now, two things to remember when leveling abilities, and you're going to get sick and tired of me saying this, but I want to drill it into your heads. When leveling abilities, you need to remember two things: to adapt to your situation when leveling, and to treat each ability as its own entity. You do not want to create combos in your head and become predictable, because then people have an easy time popping relics to avoid your damage. Treat each ability as its own and let it come together. That being said, I upgrade Dead Spain because it's their highest clear early, and then afterwards I put a point in Cobra's Kiss. That's because it allows me to fight at level 2, but if you need ambush, which is not likely, but if you do, adapt to your situation. At level 3, most of the time I put an extra point in my Death Spain because I want to clear the jungle better. And I know I'm not in danger, but I recommend most of the time to upgrade your ambush there. And then we're going to put a point in Death Spain. Now at level 5, we're going to put a point in Last Breath, which is her ult. Now something to understand terminology-wise is the word true damage. True damage means that this number is the exact number that you're going to deal regardless of procs and mitigation. So if it says at level 5 it's going to do 180, it's going to do 180. That is what true damage is. Now that is important to know because this ult is lethal, so you want to put points in it as early as possible. Moving on, we're going to put points into Death Spain. Now at level 8, I like to skip a point. Basically what that means is at level 8, I don't expend a point, wait till level 9, now I have 2 points to spend and it opens up my first and fourth ability. Unfortunately, the simulator doesn't allow me to do that, maybe because I'm smarter than it, but that being said, for consistency, we're going to put a point in Cobra's Kiss, in Last Breath, and then in Death Spain. And continue with Cobra's Kiss because there's no reason to upgrade the ambush. You use this to escape and very rarely use it for damage. So put a point in Cobra's Kiss at level 13. You're going to put another point in Last Breath, Cobra's Kiss, Ambush. At level 17, another point in Last Breath, and then upgrade Ambush all the way and Last Breath. And that is how I recommend to level Serqet. On how to build Serqet. Now this is one of the toughest topics in the entire game because you have to do a lot of experimenting in order to get this down. The best recommendation that I am going to do, and hopefully it helps you, is I like to look at the tier 1s of every item and see what each tree provides. There's a little yellow highlighter above every tree on what it provides, and then I kind of decide what I feel like the god needs and then adapt to my situations in the game. Now obviously this is going to take some time and practice and more experimenting, so the more videos I do, that's kind of the whole point of the series, is for you to see me advance as a player. So these builds will get more and more. So I appreciate any feedback, anything you do differently, anything you feel like I shouldn't build. I'm going to read it, and I would love to have discussions for you in the comments down below. Now let's get started. Now I've only played 100 worshippers of Serqet for this video, and I've only played her in the jungle with not very frequent times I play her in support, but I played her in the jungle. So what I like to do is I like to start Assassin's Blessing, and then I like to go into Mace. Not only is this the highest damaging first tier item out of all tier 1 items, but it's going to go into a tree that gives me physical power and penetration. Now, Serqet's early game is amazing, so I'm going to get back to expanding on this point here in a second. After I get that, I'm going to get a single health pot. Now, I only like getting 1, you can get 2, but sometimes that extra 50 gold, if I save it, then I'm able to back, and then sometimes I'll get full boots because I had that extra 50 gold that I kept in hand. After that, I like to approach builds, from my understanding right now, from cheapest item to most expensive item, because I feel like if I'm mirroring myself in the game, I want the cheapest items as fast as possible because that'll be more than the guy investing more time into building, thus seizing more opportunities. Now, boots is probably the most recommended item in the game. It's cheap. You need the movement speed if you're going to survive in the game. Now, I like to go Talaria boots because not only does it give me MP5 for the high mana consumption Serqet has, but the movement speed's really good because you're tossing people around and making them move awkwardly with your kit, so it's very important to close the distance with that movement speed. But you can more than likely go Warrior Tabby. There's nothing wrong with this. I just prefer Talaria. Oops, let me go ahead and remove that item. Moving on,
since we have that mace already in our build, we want to move on to something in that tree. Now, in my opinion, this god needs health, cooldown, and damage in order to be effective. So her early game is fantastic. So I've come to love Crusher, but I know a lot of people go Jotuns. Hang in here with me. That item, I suggest you try it, because that early game, the cooldown's a little bit rough, but you are annihilating people if you go Crusher. After this, always adapt to your situation. Don't set cookie cutter builds. I'm just trying to get you guys started, so not only do I discuss what I know, but hopefully it sparks ideas for you and we can talk about it and get better together. So after that, I go Jotuns. This god needs CDR. You're going to feel it because there's only one way to clear the jungle, and that's the one effectively, and it's on a very long cooldown. Afterwards, I like to go Relic Dagger next for the simple fact that this gives a ton of health, cooldown, which you need desperately on this god, movement speed, which I love because you like to be agile and very swift. So I like to get Relic Dagger, and the best thing about this item is that your relics are reduced by 40 seconds, so that's huge for when you're blinking in, getting your poisons off, getting a bunch of damage off, and then resetting. This item will do you so well. Now, this core will do you well in most games, but I encourage you to please try to beat this build. Try to give me feedback, try to experiment, and try to find better ways. Afterwards, there are two items that I absolutely love, and that goes Shifters and Runic Shield. These two items are extremely cheap, and their stats are actually ridiculous. But it depends on the gods that you're versing, who you are trying to kill. So, Runic Shield, if you want to go a very cheap, great statistical item against magical gods. Shifters, you flip the script, physical gods. So I usually like to go these four items, and then one of these, I usually don't like to go both of them unless I need to. Most of the time I go Shifters, and then before I end the build, it's situational, but I tend to use these items a lot, depending on the game, if I need Mantle or if I need Magi's. But if you want to continue to go damage, I don't recommend you go Heartseeker, for the simple fact that Heartseeker just, you need a lot of power for this passive to go down. And Serqet, you don't really want to have a lot of high base power. You want to find a balance between cooldown, power, and health. So what I like to do last is I like to either go, I like to stack up on Void Shield, or I like to go into Masamune. Now, this item is really slept on. I'm a big fan of being slippery with this god, so I like to stack up a lot of movement speed. So that's what I like to do. So my builds usually look like that, but these are the items I've stayed around for the 100 worshippers that I've gained. Let me know what you think, and I really hope this helps.
Alright, peoples, I'm super excited to show you guys some Serqet techniques to encourage you to play a difficult god. Now, I'm going to break that stigma that this god is difficult after this video. It's actually quite easy to play Serqet. So I'm going to level up to level 5 really quickly here. Get some points in. So the thing that throws most people off is the 1, right? It's a right, left, right motion, but I'm going to show you a trick to make it a lot easier and not overthink. When you see this ground targeter, try to get it in front of the enemy and try to get ahead of them with your 1. Once you do that, turn your camera at the same time and auto. You will hit your 1 every single time if you do that. If you just base it on getting in front of them. So on a moving target, I'm going to base getting in front of them and do that. You want to get in front of them with your 1. It's going to take some practice, but if you use that, you'll get really, really good at Serqet. Now, sometimes you'll miss 1 or 2 on the motion of trying to catch up to them, but that's okay, because the point of Serqet is to build up poisons to get physical damage based on a target's health. So, this is a poison, this is a poison, and this is a poison. And then you auto, and that's the highest damage you can possibly do. Now, little techniques that I would use is 2 ways to approach this. You can taunt someone in, and then you 1 in, and you auto. It's pretty good. Something that I do, because I have a lot of practice with her, is I have a tendency to auto between every ability to get the most damage out. Now, for some people, it might seem odd since you don't want to consume the poisons, but the thing is when you taunt, that's only one poison. So there's no passive proc yet. So you can fit in an auto in between. Gotta be fast, but you can go auto, one, auto. That's a lot of damage once you have power over it. Now, the third way, and this is the incorrect way to do it, I don't recommend people doing this, but I see a lot of people doing this, is they'll taunt, and then they'll one, and then they'll ult, and this can make it awkward in a fight. Because they'll beads, and then you'll just not have that freedom to auto. Obviously, that's a bot. But what I would recommend is if you know that your combo is going to kill them, let's back up a bit. I don't discourage this. It's not a bad thing. I think there's a more effective way to do it. I think most people, once they start playing it at a beginner or intermediate level, like, that's the natural way to do it. What I recommend is that you ult first to get their purification beads, and then you taunt them back in, and then you one. And then you auto. Now, those poisons last quite a bit. So, like, there's no necessary rush. You can kind of sneak in, and when you're fighting, you can kind of just taunt two people. Say you taunt two people, run away with your one. You've got two poisons attached, and then the fight develops. Because they do last, I mean, they last 20 seconds. So you can just continue to poke, and then when you see fit, you can apply your ult, have all three poisons, and one big smack. But I hope that helped. If you have any feedback, please leave it in the comments below, and let's get better together.